It's a little dark in here, and I've got some old studio lights that I haven't set up for a very long time. I'm going to go ahead and try to get those set up. There we go, and we're in business. Okay, need some way to test the microphone here. All right, I can't believe this is coming together. I'm super excited. We're just going to try the lights. Oh man, there's like a big spot right there. Now we just have 2 spots. This is going to have to be good enough. This says, what I really want to address is how to spot ranking opportunities in search results. You're trying to come up with keywords and topics that you can target to get visible in search. A lot of us, including myself, sometimes have difficulty knowing how to tell if we can even possibly rank for something. Hey, Dan here, just editing the video in my home office, which my wife has decorated very nicely. I just want to mention that in this video I'm talking about ranking factors for informational keywords, informational articles, blog topics, things like that. I'm not really talking about commercial keywords, products, services, things like that. This is ranking factors for your blog topics, articles, informational stuff. Okay, back to the video. I've grouped these into sections. The first section having to do with authority, and number 1 is your link or your domain authority. The point here with this first one is when you're looking at search results, if you use like the Moz Tool Bar, like the Moz Bar overlay, and you can see the domain authority of the search results ranking, if a lot of the search results you see are domain authority 60, 70 and higher, like all 10 results have a super high domain authority, unless you are publishing on a site that also has a high domain authority, you're going to have a bit of a tricky time ranking. Not definitely. I'm going to give you some tactics that you might be able to still get visible there. But if every single result is domain authority 70, 80, 90 or higher ranking, there's not a lot of opportunity. There's not a lot of domain authority weak spot. And as we know, links and domain authority are a huge ranking factor. So that's the first thing that I look at when I'm studying a search result. Number 2, the author authority, or who is behind the content. Now, as you may know, Google is probably trying to assess the expertise level and the amount of trust that they can put in who has created the content. So if you're an expert in medicine and you write a medical article, of course you're going to have an easier time ranking there. And I'm not going to try to pretend that I can figure out how Google is figuring out who's an authority or not. You can take your guess at that. But what I do know is more often than not, I see authoritative people writing authoritative content because they're experts and they have an easier time ranking. How many times in search have you searched for something, maybe even an SEO or a marketing article, and you land on it and you visit it and you've never heard of that author before, or you can tell by reading it that they were just trying to target keywords. They are not an expert in that area. So you want to go through, and this is where the work has to happen, right? I'm not saying this is super fast or easy for everything you're analyzing, but again, the people that are going to put in the work and the effort in this, you're going to be the ones that can discover the opportunity and potentially rank more easily. So I would look at almost every single result to get a sense for, are true experts writing this content? This is a huge factor in Google's Search Quality Raters guidelines. In fact, I recommend everyone go study those and read them. Go to the SEM post and read Jennifer Slegg's summary of the search quality guidelines. They're going to help you so much. This is how Google is thinking of quality of content, right? So definitely try to figure out if somebody's an expert at what they've written about, go look them up. Look to see if they have a LinkedIn page. Google their name. Look at their Twitter profile. Get a sense for who they are on the web and get a sense for if you think they're an expert. Okay, so that's authority. If you see authority gaps, it's a pretty good signal that you could potentially rank even if you're lower authority, because that's a huge factor. But let's get to the second group here, what I call engagement. Now, this is not as huge of a ranking factor, but it could show an opportunity for for you to potentially, if you do rank, get more of the clicks and more of the attention. So number 3 is what I'm calling SERP engagement, search result page engagement opportunity, and that is in click-through rate. So you can use a lot of Moz's data they've given us to, or a lot of ranking tools will show what snippets and what features are showing in the search results. So if you are saying, can I rank for this search query? And you search it and you see AdWords and you see maps, or you see snippet boxes, featured snippets, or you see knowledge boxes on the right, or you see the carousel up on the top. The more stuff there is on the search result page, the harder of a time you're going to have to get that click. So you got to keep that in mind. But the other one here I have is copy, and that is a lot of times you see content that ranks, that has good authority behind the domain. It might be relevant, but they haven't done a great job in the title tag or in the description to entice the click. So if you can potentially rank there, that means you could maybe stand out a little bit better and get the click that the sites that are ranking there are not getting. So I would consider this more of like an opportunity to get clicks if you do rank. Number 4, on-site engagement. This is actually a ranking factor. Google has talked about this. So things like commenting, repeat visits, although that's going to be hard to tell unless you have the site's internal analytics, but maybe things like sharing. These engagement factors are a potential ranking factor. So again, if you're saying, can I rank for this keyword? Go search it in Google, click on each result, and actually look, are the results that are ranking, do they have comments? Are people sharing them? Try to get a sense for using, what people call the sniff test. Are people enjoying the content that they're finding based upon engagement? If you see a lot of content ranking that doesn't have engagement, that's a sign of a potential weakness right there. Now, the other side thing here about comments is oftentimes people will write an article, but it's 5 years old, and there's a whole slew of comments there that have gone unanswered. This is your opportunity to actually write what might be an update of this article, what that site should have done, but you go ahead and do that for them on your own site. Answer the questions people have been asking if this content is old. It's such a great way to spot a weakness and potentially rank. If they've dropped the ball, if they haven't updated their content, you can go and do that and potentially rank. All right, let's get to number 5. So all of this is content. You can see how important the actual content is. Now, of course, links are important and the authority of who's writing the content is important, but the actual content itself breaks down on many levels, and a lot of times people just say the quality of the content. And actually, that's why quality is such an empty word. We say, oh, you have to build quality content. Everyone just says that as it's like a default phrase, and I get it. We're trying to explain what we mean when we say that. However, what I really want to do is, and this is the critical part of this video here, this is the part people don't do. This is the analysis people do not do when they're analyzing the search results. It's actually assessing the quality of the content in a variety of factors. So, number 1, relevant. This is one you can do very quickly. If you get good at this, you can very quickly spot a relevance gap or not. So what I mean by this is you do the search. Let's say it's how to tie a tie. You search for how to tie a tie. The first thing you should do is scan the search results and just look at the titles and descriptions and the URLs. Do they indicate that they are answering what the searcher has searched for? Now, of course, you have to be mindful of synonyms or phrase matches or semantic matches, but what you really want to try to get fast at is, and we all search in the web, right? We should be doing this as users anyways, is trying to figure out, did what I search for actually have the potential of answering my question? So this here, I'm going to star this with a big black star. This is one of the biggest gaps in opportunity that I see. This is one of the biggest gaps in opportunity that I see. Even if a lot of high domain authority sites are ranking, if there is a gap in relevance, meaning that what somebody has searched for is not being answered, their question is not being answered, Google wants to return relevant content. So if I'm searching how to tie a tie and the results are talking about maybe ties I can buy or how to color match ties or the different styles. None of them are giving me how to tie the tie. That's a relevance gap that you could fill. Now, a point what I want to make here about domain authority is that there's also the factor that if you have a low domain authority, let's say your domain authority is 45. If only 10, you've got 10 results. If only 5 of the results ranking have domain authority 60 or higher, and you see some domain authorities that have 30, 25, 37, 42, if they're ranking there, you could potentially rank there too. They're proving to you by the fact that they're showing up there that you might be able to show up there. Now, you have to assess it with all these other signals and maybe go look at their site, look behind the scenes, see if maybe Moz's domain authority score hasn't caught up with it. But that's a great signal that you could potentially rank there. It's showing that it's not just high authority sites. So back to the relevance here. Definitely, you want to quickly scan the results and make an assessment for a relevance gap. And also, like I said, you want to ask yourself, we're going to do a little edit right there. Number 6, domain relevance. Now, this is one people don't think of as often. But let's say you're searching for an article, maybe you're searching for how to use Instagram. And the results that show up are from maybe sites like Forbes and Entrepreneur and New York Times, because all these sites have areas where you can post about a more specific topic. Let's say there's nothing ranking from an actual social media site. This is most definitely not the case in reality, but just stick with me here on the hypothetical. Let's say Social Media Examiner's not ranking, Copy Blogger's not ranking, Quick Sprout, all of these more marketing and social media related sites. That is a domain relevance gap and a weakness and an opportunity, because oftentimes for Google, the niche of the site is more important than if a broad site's ranking. Meaning, oftentimes Google is going to kind of look at the domain and classify this website is about social media marketing. If you write an article related to social media marketing, Google's going to look at that and say, this site is probably more relevant for that topic overall. They might be more experts than some person that's posting on Entrepreneur. So you might actually have a chance to rank there. So one thing I want you to be mindful of when you're looking for these opportunities is how specific or how niche are the sites ranking in relationship to the topic that you want to write about. There could be an opportunity for you there. Number 7, how original is the content? So you notice how we're breaking down the quality, right? Relevance is very different than how original something is. Relevant is how on the market is, but original, we can have 10 articles that are about how to clean your car, but maybe they're all just kind of redundant. Maybe they're all talking about it the same way. Maybe they all just use text. They don't have photos. They don't have videos. They don't have step-by-step instructions. This is where originality can come in, because oftentimes what you'll notice is something that's opinionated or something that has a unique perspective. If you're somebody that worked, let's say at Toyota for 10 years detailing cars for the Toyota dealership, you've got a pretty unique perspective that you can write an original article about how to clean your car versus just your layman homeowner, car owner, or maybe even just somebody that detailed cars a little bit professionally. You might have a unique story. So oftentimes, even if there's no relevance gap, maybe there's a little bit of a domain authority gap. If you have an original point of view where you can add some unique insight that nobody else has talked about, you potentially rank. Number 8, recency. Now, some people might conflate this a little bit with the freshness algorithm. I want to forget about all that. Whatever the freshness algorithm is or isn't, the fact is that many times I've seen content ranking, and I'm sure you've seen this too, you've probably seen content ranking that's old. You can just scan the search result. Do they show dates that are from 2008, 2010? Oftentimes, content that is not recent is a sign of the fact that maybe links on that content have gone old and broken. Maybe there's no facts that are correct anymore in that content. Maybe it should be updated. Maybe if it's content that's reviewing software, maybe the screenshots are all out of date. Maybe the videos are all out of date. So oftentimes, especially if this is a timely topic that really deserves a fresh view and new input and correct information if new things have come about over the years, if you see a recency gap, that's also a potential for you to rank. Notice that, like I said, it's a different qualitative factor than relevant. A couple of things I want to add that I forgot to mention here is basic errors, or if it's factual. If you're clicking on every result, remember, put in the work, click on every result, and look for the opportunity, do the manual work. Maybe there's just stuff broken on the page. There's broken links, there's broken images. Maybe the design got all messed up. That's an opportunity too. That's a signal of bad content quality, and that users might be landing on that, not enjoying the content, might be bouncing back, looking for something better. Also, if you're writing something, let's say in the medical field, this is super important. The medical, finance, insurance, it's got to be factual. You've got to be correct with what you're saying. If you're talking about, medical terms, you can assess if the content ranking is not factually correct to your expert knowledge, you have a potential to rank there as well. Number 10, just listen to your emotions. If you're a regular user searching and you're finding yourself feeling frustrated or impatient, like you just can't find what you're looking for and you're finding yourself refining the search. Maybe you search for, like I was doing this the other day, best podcasting microphone. Here's my microphone right here. I couldn't find a great resource for this. I found myself refining the search, clicking on the did you mean or like the relevant related searches at the bottom, clicking to one page, bouncing back, not really being able to find the answer that I'm trying to, maybe I can't articulate it, but the thing that I'm trying to look for when I'm searching. Listen to your own frustration, because if you're just feeling frustrated as a user and you've got maybe a domain authority, a link authority, gap opportunity, that's also a signal that you could potentially rank. Now, this video has gone on a little longer than I intended. That's okay. Hopefully you've stuck with me. But I've got a few action item recommendations for you to do these. Number one, everybody, if you're just searching the web like a normal user or you're doing keyword research for yourself or your client, you should practice reading, what I like to call reading search results. Get really good at assessing the results from all of these angles, as many of them as possible, as quickly as possible. Meaning, when I go to Google and I search, and I'm doing research, I'm quickly sizing up the results for all of these factors and trying to calculate them in my head and kind of think of them all in conjunction at the same time. It just takes practice. So the first step is to be aware of these factors and how you're judging and assessing and looking at content. But then you just got to practice it. Just do it. Turn on your Moz Bar, analyze the results, ask yourself how relevant they are, click on them, take a look at who the author is, study the content itself. One last thing I meant to mention here is the UX of the content. And I actually meant to mention that, I forget where I meant to mention it, but one factor two is the UX or the design. Let's call that number 11. This is part of the content quality. So if you are trying to assess the quality of the content itself and you click, you're analyzing, you're trying to see if there's a weakness, if their design is bad, if it's outdated, if the images are broken, if the navigation is frustrating, if it doesn't work on a mobile device, if the page loads slow, that might be a UX or a design weakness. So maybe all of these other things, they're doing great, but their design's just bad. That's an opportunity for you, especially if your site has a good design. All right, back to number 2 of the action items here. You're going to want to pick some phrases, some topics, some keywords to create content around to try to see if you can actually rank for these things. So set intentional targets. Like, be mindful, be intentional about the content you're creating and what you're trying to achieve in search results. Meaning, make sure that you know the exact keywords that represent the topic that you're trying to rank for. So in other words, back to the how to tie a tie example. Pick the top couple search volume keywords that represent your topic. So it might be how to tie a tie. And that way you have something to measure what you're doing against. Oftentimes I'll see people just kind of create content but not have really zoned in specifically on the keyword or the topic. That's super important. So even if it's just a matter of having a couple top target keywords where you've said, okay, I know the possible intention of the searcher searching for this keyword represents this content for this topic that I'm going to create, at least you're being a little bit intentional about it. And number 3, track and measure it. This is the most fun and important thing about doing search and about doing marketing. Once you have your target, throw that keyword in a rank tracker, or at least make sure you're looking at Search Console, Search Analytics, to see how it does. I think one of the most fascinating things in search is to actually see where Google places you on the very first time you're indexed. Meaning, I created a piece of content last week that my top target keyword was meta description examples. You might have seen the content. I did another little whiteboard about it. It was fascinating to me to see that Google ranked me at position 16 on the first indexation for that piece of content. And I've been steady there for 4 or 5 days now. And that's interesting. Now I've learned something about how Google might perceive my site and my content. And now the next time I create content, maybe I can do a little bit better. Maybe I can take the feedback from what I've gotten. Now, of course, I'm not saying rankings are the goal. I'm not saying you should obsess about rankings. This is strictly to base around your learning for how things might perform in search. And of course, I hope I don't have to say this, it's always about the user, right? You should be creating the content for the user in mind. Google is really just trying to return the best piece of content to the user. So of course, rankings are not the goal, but it's a great feedback mechanism to see how well you're learning this stuff and how well you have played the search results and judged what you have seen, because ultimately your goal should be about trying to help people. And the way I look at search engines is more like a question and answer form. In other words, every search result page, to me, in my mind, is just like the search result in Quora.com. And if I see a gap where a question has not been answered, I want to help users because I know they're probably frustrated like I might be frustrated when I'm looking for like a podcasting microphone. So get out there, study the search results, try to help people by creating content, judge how it's doing, and let me know. Let me know if you have questions in the comments below, and I hope to see you again soon. Thank you. Okay, not bad. I'm just excited to do more whiteboard videos. It's a comfortable format for me. Random, not trying to copy you. I was a teacher a long time before I knew about SEO, so I've stood at many white. We're gonna figure out the lights. I know they're kind of frustrating probably, seeing the big spot. Woof, 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 woof. This is how smart I am. What do you think's gonna diffuse the light more? This little guy or this thing? Underlay.